Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Katie Lloyd, the Whole Farm Program Manager at Rural Action, here with Kati Bowman from KCARD, Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development. And we're happy to present the second part of our marketing series. So if you're here for that, you're in the right place. If that's not what you're here for, then you're in the wrong Zoom room. But excited to get started. This is session 2 out of 4. We're going to be doing this for the next 2 Tuesdays. So if you're interested in the other topics in the marketing series, I encourage you to attend those as well. This session will be recorded and I will be sending it out tomorrow morning, just in case you miss anything. You can watch that back. Am I forgetting anything, Katie?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right, then over to you.
As Katie Lloyd mentioned, my name is Kati Bowman. I am the marketing and business development specialist at KCARD. I'm sorry, I'm doing two things at once. Um, and I am going to talk a little bit about establishing your brand. So I get this loaded up. So a little bit about KCARD. We are an independent nonprofit that works with Rural Action, and other partners within the state and within the region to provide technical assistance to producers and agribusinesses across the state. This can be anything from business development to grant facilitation to marketing assistance to record keeping assistance. Any sort of business support service we can provide. We don't do the production side of things. We've got other organizations that do all of that, and they do a phenomenal job of that. As I mentioned earlier, it's kind of the quick and dirty on KCARD. We're going to talk about establishing your brand. And I'm going to try to not talk really quickly. I have a habit of doing that. And I'm going to try and stay on time so we can hear from our fantastic panelists. So here's kind of a rundown of what we're going to talk about tonight. So we're going to start with branding and why it matters and how to develop your brand. Then we're going into how to take that brand and create it into a style guide that you can use and utilize for your business and your farm to make sure everything else that you do marketing wise follows that brand. We're going to talk through storytelling and why you should share so they care. And then we're going to talk about the power of photos. And finally, at the end, the second half of this, we're going to hear from our farmer panel. We've got 3 awesome ladies joining us tonight, who all are fantastic women, fantastic people for their business, for their farm, for the community, who've done a wonderful job of developing the brand over years to make it where it is now. And they all have a different take on it and a different way of doing things. And so it'll be great to hear their how they got to where they are now. And I'll have some questions for them, and then I want to open it up to see what you all have together. So, whoa, how did I get there? Special.
Spoilers.
I know. So, branding, why does it matter? Your brand is your identity. So just like your face and your hair and your makeup or no makeup and your clothes and the way you dress and the way you choose to look is all on who you are as a person, your brand is the same way. So your brand is more than just a logo, it's more than just words. It is really focusing on who you are, what you offer, what your values are, and then how you want to be recognized in the marketplace. If you already have a brand, it is utilizing what you have already and growing it into something more. If you don't already have a brand and you're like, I want to have these colors in my brand, and you want to have, I'm going to choose my oldest's favorite colors, which are orange and blue. How does orange and blue relate to your farm? Do you grow oranges? Do you grow carrots? Do you make jams and jellies or breads? What does that look like? One thing that you want to make sure you do in thinking about and defining your brand is making sure that it's true to you. It is very easy to come up with a pie in the sky view of what you want your brand to be, but then when you put it into practice, it's not who you are. If you are not a super fun and outgoing and jokey person and someone who is just constantly like sending out quips and sharing information, and that is what you make your brand to be, you are going to have to become that in a sense. If you are more straight to the facts and very methodical and very straightforward, and you make your brand that way, then that's staying true to who you are. And that makes that marketing piece a lot easier. It is a lot easier to sell yourself and sell something you love than it is to sell something that you're just kind of forced to do because you've created something that's kind of a monster in the nicest way possible. Um, so why your brand matters. Your brand is your promise to your customer. It tells them what they can expect from you and your products and your services. It shows how you're different than your competitors. If every produce farm had the same tomato, lettuce, carrot image, we would all look the same and no one would know whose is who. Even if the names were different, they would see the image and your customers would see the image and they're like, oh, well, Katie's is the same as Bob's and Bob's is the same as Joe's. And I can just go see everybody because it doesn't matter. They're all together when you all are all in fact separate. So not only is it the promise to your customer, but it creates a connection. It creates your distinct personality, identity for the business, that your customers bring in loyalty to, and it drives your growth. So it really encourages customers to focus on you. It makes who you are memorable, and it makes who you are in a place where you can grow into something more. So here are some different brands that I've pulled that are fairly recognizable. Some are national brands, some are regional brands, some are international brands, some are local brands. These are ones that if you see them out and about, you might not think anything of it, but they have spent a lot of time and money and effort into creating these brands and what they are. And you generally know what they are. So Vital Farms is on the top right. You see their billboards all over the interstate. You see their products in the grocery stores, not just in mass retailers, but in smaller co-op grocery stores as well. They are focused on family farms, and they're focused on bringing that farm product to the consumer with as little middlemen as possible. That is what they stick to. That is their branding. That is their message. If you see all of their products up there, and I talk with my hands and I apologize. If you see all of those products up there in that top right corner, they all look very similar. It's a black background. It is colorful accent images, whether it's grasses or like shooting stars out of a sun, or grains. It's all very colorful. And then their logo is a big red dot. You cannot miss a big red dot in the grocery store. Your eyes are generally attracted to red. And then they go, and that looks the same for all things, whether it's hard-boiled eggs or whole eggs, liquid whole eggs, or eggs in the shell, or butter, or they have other dairy products as well. The next national brand is Tillamook, which is a cheese dairy, a cooperative dairy up in the Northeast. No, Northwest. In the North. I can't remember. I think they're Northeast. And they have stuck with this same brand since the beginning. It has always been a ship. It has always been the lettering. If you look at the history of it, the font choice has been different, a little bit different here and there, but it's always been the same. And it's same in black, it's same in white, it's same in gold, it's same in blue. And then Starbucks, we all know Starbucks marketing. We've seen it all over the place, whether we're in the airport or driving down the road or in the mall. Their logo has had lots of iterations to it, but it's always the green, it's always the white, and you can recognize their cups, whether they're smashed on the road underneath truck tires or if they are sitting on a table. The other two brands are local brands to the area. So 80 Acres is actually a farm on the border of Kentucky. They pull from Kentucky producers. And I want to say they pull from Ohio and Indiana producers as well. And they have lettuce mixes and salad mixes and salad kits. You can find them in the grocery store. Their brand and their logo is very unassuming. It could be water, it could be grains, it could be lettuce. They really left it open for all different things to allow that brand to grow and expand into different products as they wanted to. And then Freedom Run Farm is a lamb brand here in the state. Um, they started as a small family farm and have grown into a processing facility, purchasing lambs from other states to bring here to process in hopes of competing with New Zealand lamb that's brought into Kentucky, that's brought into the United States. So one question that I want you to think about as we go forwards with all of these branding. So these are some larger brands, some local brands. But if you were to think of your farm as a person, so putting your face into your farm, creating a personality for your farm, what traits would it have? Would they be outgoing? Would they be colorful? What kind of clothes would they wear? Are they more vibrant and fun and bright colors and eccentric? Are they more muted and reserved? What does that look like? What is your personality like? And how does that fit into your farm? And I promise all of this is going to tie in together. Um, the next part. So your brand is one thing. Your brand is not just your logo. It is the whole personality of your business. So how do we take all those thoughts that are here and what that personality is, and then put it onto paper? So if you were to hire someone to do marketing for you, or contract out website development, or contract out, hire salespeople, hire someone to go to the farmer's market for you. I know we all would love that some days. Is to just not wake up at 4 a.m. on Saturday to go to farmer's market. We'd like to just sleep in and hang out at home for a little bit. But if you were to do that, how do you take all of those thoughts of who your brand is and what you represent and put it onto paper to hand to somebody else so they understand your business and they understand who you are and can represent you either in creating of materials or out in public? So this is in a style guide. So the style guide example here is very straightforward into the style of your brand. So it includes your logos, it includes your colors. This is really important because if you go by the Crayola box and say, my colors are cornflower blue and goldenrod yellow, beautiful colors, but you go and Google those colors, you're not going to find those exact color matches to what those crayons are on a piece of paper. You're going to find variants of all different shades and hex colors and RGB colors and CMKY colors, and it's all different. So making sure that you pick, and Pantone colors, making sure that you pick colors and then list out what they are in each of those different places. Because if you go to print something at a printer versus go online to build a website, they use two different color categories on where they pull their color from. So it's really important to make sure that you list those so you have all those together. Then typography. So this is your fonts, your font choices. What font do you have writing on your logo? If so, what font is it? What fonts complement that? What fonts don't complement that? If you're going to be doing presentations like this, what fonts do you want for your headings, your subheadings? If you do a lot of graphics for your social media, what fonts do you use? Are they fonts that go along with your brand? And we'll see examples of those from our panelists, and then we'll also see some other examples too. And then, so all of this is just to keep it consistent. So whatever you create, or your niece or nephew creates, or your spouse or partner creates, or Mary, who does marketing down the road, creates, making sure that all of that is the same, because ultimately it's all about your brand and it's representing your brand when it goes out into the public, and you want to make sure that you have control over that. So consistent branding is uniform and recognizable. So think of the brand, think of a brand that is most recognizable to you. It can be a national brand. It doesn't have to be food or ag related. It can be Menards, for example. Spent a lot of time at Menards this weekend, so Menards is on the brain. How do they use that branding throughout their store, throughout their website, throughout customer service, throughout their products that are being sent to you? How does that build trust with customers? And then how does it align with their message? When you have inconsistent branding, you have essentially an identity crisis across your different platforms and your touch points. So if you, for example, if you were to get, I'm gonna I'm gonna make an assumption here that we all have heard of HelloFresh, which is the meal kit delivery system. If you got a HelloFresh box, and instead of it being that like grass green with yellow scripty font, handwritten font, and lots of little pamphlets and lots of directions, and everything was pre-proportioned and pre-cut and given the steps on the packaging. If you were to get a HelloFresh meal and it was red and it was block serif lettering, so letters that have the little turnips on the corners. If you were to get full produce, so not cut up, not pre-cut, not pre-mixed dressings, not pre-made things, and you had to do all of that, but there were no directions. It was take carrots, mix with this, heat on medium heat, put in dish, you're done. Would that feel like HelloFresh to you, or would it feel like it was very off-brand? It was the teamy version of HelloFresh. It wouldn't feel like HelloFresh because it wouldn't go along with what their branding is. It wouldn't go along with what HelloFresh actually is. That is how important it is to keep on branding with marketing and with how you share and deliver and provide your products and services to your customers. So how do we start a style guide? So I've showed you what the style part of the style guide is, but how do you get there? If you're like me and you have so many creative thoughts in a day, but at the end of the day, when you have to be doing things, your creative thoughts are slowly dwindling down. How do you get to that point? Inspiration photos. That's what I always ask people for. So when I work with folks on branding guides, I ask them, what is your inspiration? What do you want your brain to see? What pictures have you found over the years, or what are some things that you really like that you're like, you know what, that represents my business? If you're a restaurant on the water in Kentucky, more than likely you're on the Kentucky River. You're going to want to have kayakers. You're going to want to have canoers. You're going to want to have boaters. So those pictures of people kayaking down the Kentucky River are going to fall into your marketing. They're going to fall underneath your style guide and your inspiration because you're going to want to have style and a similar vibe, for new age speak, that matches that of those people because they're going to be some of your target customers. Your logo. What is your logo? If you don't have a logo, what do you want your logo to be? I once worked with a farm out of southwestern Kentucky, and they raise produce and eggs. Fantastic farm, fantastic produce. Their logo, for a brief time, they went from a logo of two people with kind of like the pitchfork look and cowboy and like farmer hat to an orange with a green thing and their farm name on it. And I said, why the orange? She's like, well, we like orange. And I said, but you don't raise oranges. If you lived in Florida, this would work, but we can't raise oranges in Kentucky, really. At least not that part of Kentucky. Um, so we talked through what that was and how we could make a logo, how they could make a logo that represented their farm, but with still colors that represented them. Your colors, going back to your colors, those are really important. If you're an orange person, fantastic. Your customers might not be. So think about colors that represent your brand. Think about colors that represent your products. There is a whole series and a whole marketing stuff that you can find online. There are tons of YouTube videos about it, about color psychology within food. And if you like psychology, it's really, really interesting. The biggest thing is that there are colors of danger. There are colors of like nutrition and wholesomeness, and then there are other colors. So finding ones that fit what you're doing is great, and finding images too that fit what you do is great. If you have a butcher shop, having two cleavers is going to make a lot more sense than if you're raising lamb, having two cleavers. is going to, unless you're processing it yourself, it's going to be kind of it might be a harder sell. And then font names. So what fonts are you choosing? Is your logo um, like a lot of silhouettes? And if it is, are you choosing a more masculine font or are you choosing a more feminine font? If it's a lot of silhouettes, you might want to go more towards a handwritten feminine style font versus a masculine font. Or you want to go towards something more vintage style than textile or than new age style. So all of this really plays into how your brand is perceived, not just by your customer, but by your competition and the rest of the marketplace. So any questions before I start jumping into storytelling? And I'm going to connect all of this back up towards the end. So I, I like interactive webinars or presentations, I guess, and it's harder to do on webinars. Okay. So storytelling. So how do you share so they care? How do you share your story so that the rest of the world will listen to you? Because it's really easy to share something and have nobody listen to you. I'm sorry, I have a dog that is craving attention at the moment. So why your story matters. My biggest advice when it comes to marketing, and it's more of a challenge than advice, and it's just kind of a saying that was told to me by my mom as a kid. And I think it was meant to build emotional confidence, but it is you are unique just like everybody else, which is great. It's great advice. But it's also like, yeah, everyone's unique. So how am I unique in my own way that I stand out for somebody else to notice? Um, so your story is how you're going to stand out. If you're sitting next to four other people that raise chickens and sell eggs and raise produce, how you share your story, how you sell your product, how you make that connection with that customer is going to matter more than if your eggs are green versus brown, or if you have rainbow shard versus plain Swiss chard. It's just that's gonna be the end of it, is that people are gonna want to know more about you. They're gonna want to know, okay, is this person personable? Are they wanting to sell me? Are they just here to sell their product and make a buck? Or are they here because they really want to be here and they're passionate about what they do? They love what they do and they want to share that passion with me. So your story builds that emotional connection. That is the most important part, is because if your customers don't feel like they are part of your story, then they don't get that connection to you. It is also the place where you can pull your best marketing. If you share a 30-second story with somebody, someone is going to glean onto one piece of that story, and that's what they're going to share out. And that is really important, because ultimately, that's how you do word of mouth marketing, and that's what you need mostly. Well, you need a lot of other things, but word of mouth is really important. So when we tell stories, there's a general framework. So you've got, just like when you write a story or you read a story, there's a beginning, a middle, and end. Now there are three ways that people generally tell stories within marketing. The first one, and I didn't do a great job of explaining this on my slide, and it looks a little confusing. So the first line of beginning, middle, and ends is the narrative. So this is just a basic storytelling. So when you tell a story, you have a hook, something that brings people in. You have the series of events of how you got to where you are, and then you have the conclusion of now I'm here and now I'm selling you produce. Great. It works. It's not a bad system. Your hook is probably some of the most important pieces of how do you bring people in. Did you have a health crisis? Did something happen within your family? Did something happen with you and you're like, you know what? I worked in corporate America and IT for 10 years. I lost it. Point blank, I lost it. Now I'm here. Now I'm raising produce. I reconnected with the land. I reconnected to understand what my roots were, and then use that as a story to go forwards. The second way of story framework is being helpful. So it is explaining who you are, why you do what you do. So I started here, and this is my background. I don't have a background in agriculture. I grew up on in the suburbs. I grew up riding horses. I grew up doing this. And through a series of events, I ended up in Kentucky. And then I found a bunch of people in ag, and they were the coolest people in the world because who doesn't love people in ag? Who can feed you all of the time when you love food? It makes life a lot easier. But then there was no one in my area who was raising chickens, not one person. And I couldn't eat red meat for a while, so I wanted to raise chicken for myself and my family to make sure what I was buying was better and it tasted better than the grocery store. And I decided after a year of doing that, I wanted to turn around to the rest of the population that other people who I knew wanted to feed their family better product and know where their food came from and could come out and play with the baby chicks and they could come out and see everything. And they knew me, they knew my children. That's the helpful story of like, I did this, it helped me, now it can help you. And then the last one is the hero's journey. It's the biggest trope in any movie that you ever watch. So it is what is, which is you have this person, they're called to an adventure, they're called to do something greater than themselves. Um, they go through a transformation, whether it's working with a mentor, they go through challenges, they go through a revelation, and then they're rebirthed into what could be, into something that's greater than themselves and greater what they were before. All of those three ways of telling stories are great ways to share information. It is great ways to break down your story and break down how you got to where you are now to a point that you can pull out nuggets of it and kind of breadcrumb your customers along the way on socials, on email blasts, on your website, even just talking with them in person. You don't have to share a 5-minute story with every person you meet. Having a 30-second elevator pitch when you talk with people is great. Having a 5-second, hey, I understand where you're coming from, or hey, like you've got kids, try this. This is great. They love it. I have picky eaters. They love this. They will eat it, I promise. And go from there. Any questions on storytelling? And I apologize, it's getting darker behind me. So the storm is rolling in. So if you hear a lot of noise, it's not me, it's the storm. Nancy, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so do you ever use, let's say someone else's story to help prompt your story or like testimonials?
Yes, so testimonials are a great way of storytelling as long as you have permission.
Right.
So
And
just make sure that you have permission either via email or via text. So it's written down that they say, here's what I share.
right.
And you say, can I share this? And they're like, yes.
So I find it hard to talk about myself. That's where I kind of feel easier to use someone else's testimony. What
Hmm.
ratio, though, would you say is a good balance? Because I don't want to just always use someone else's information and not tell my own story too.
I wouldn't say there's a specific ratio. I would say if their testimonial is supporting what your story is, then use it. It's
Okay.
always good to support. It's like providing evidence in a paper or
Right.
providing evidence a, for a lawyer or something. Is always having that extra evidence and extra support of like, this is why I got started, this is what happened, this is where I came from, and this is where I am. And then have someone come in and say, you know what? Nancy's products were fantastic. They helped my family go from being here and feeling gross from eating all the sugars and all the herbicides and pesticides to now we're craving vegetables. And
Right.
I'm just throwing things outside on too
Yeah.
broke, but just craving things. And we want that product. And we find her at the market. We find her when markets aren't going on and you have extra product. Or if you do value added product, like we reach out to you during the off season and know when your product's coming on so we can be there. So yeah,
Okay.
having that testimonial and then tying it back to your actual story.
Okay. Makes sense. Thanks.
Perfect. Anybody else? I like questions. So photos are worth a photo's worth 1,000 words. I think it's still saying. And so are videos. Videos are worth even more words now. They are higher performing on social medias than photos are. So if you are not a video person, I am sorry, but give it a shot. I'm going to challenge you for that. So why photos? Why videos? They build trust and visual consistency. They allow your customer to get a glimpse into what you see every day. They allow your customer to get a glimpse into your product, into you, into your family, into your farm. And people want to see them. As I mentioned earlier, photos and videos outperform text on social media every day. Videos get 3 times more engagement on social media than photos. They encourage people to stop and watch. So the average, and I haven't looked this up in a while, but the average human being has the attention span of less than 8 seconds. The average goldfish has the attention span of 8 seconds. Yeah, it's great. So photos are a way to capture their attention really fast where they don't have to read, they don't have to look. They can just see it and they're like, oh, pretty picture. And they stop and then they look deeper. Same with videos, same thing. It's you got those first 5 seconds of that video to get someone's attention and bring them in, reel them in. And then you can kind of dig into a little bit deeper. And photos are pretty, pictures are pretty. People like them. It's fun to see them. Think about when you're scrolling social media or when you're scrolling or looking through catalogs. You're stopping at the pretty pictures. You're not stopping at the words, usually. So what to picture? This is the question I get all the time from people is I don't know what to picture. I don't like pictures. I don't like being in videos. I don't like doing all of that. I hear you. I am the same way. I am the person that always volunteers to take pictures of everything and everybody because I don't want to be in them. I don't want to be in videos. I've been in more videos in my life than I have ever cared to want to be in. And it was just by happenstance. People are like, oh, but you love it. I'm like, oh, but I don't. Do not put me in front of the camera. I will smile and I will look happy, but I will not inside. I will be dying and itching. So what to photograph and what to video? Your daily life. I know it sounds so boring, but if you think of it, a lot of your customers don't live the same daily life that you do. They are there. They are going to work every day. They are working a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 7 and coming home and hanging out with the family and doing family things. They don't have farms. They don't have baby animals. They don't have time outside. They are constantly on the go, 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 go. So this is their time to live vicariously through you or just get a glimpse into what life is like on the slower side of things. And I say that in quotes because we all know how slow farming is and how much downtime we have, right? So the other thing is your products. People want to see what you have. They want to know about the products in containers. So if you have jams and jellies or ice cream or dairy products, the products used in recipes, and how do you make those dishes? That is important. You have a half a generation, 1.5 generations of people who, for the most part, don't know how to cook. It is amazing the number of recipes and things I have had to explain to people that I know on how to do things because they're like, I was never taught that. And I'm like, I don't know how you survived. I don't know how you live without knowing how to dice or chop or julienne or any of that. How have you made it this far? And then using your products to lay them out in an artistic way. Bring attention into them. If it's not bringing attention into you, bring attention into your products. If you're a funny person and you like to share the funnies of life or have a good sense of humor, share the behind the scenes, share the funnies, the not so great days. I wouldn't say focus on the not so great days. It's really easy to do now with all of media pulling us down. So you need to be the light in the world, but things happen. We lose babies, baby animals. We lose crops. We have severe weather where our work is dependent on the weather. We have things go wrong. We have tractors break down. We have balers catch on fire. We have accidents. It happens. Share them. As long as they're not gory, share them. Please, for the love of everything holy, do not share when you castrate animals. Please don't. I'm saying that out of like the goodness of my heart. Please don't share that. People want to know the good things that happen on the farm. And while it's a good thing to happen for the long run, in the short term, people who don't understand agriculture have a hard time understanding why you're doing all these things. So make the not so great days not so great, but don't like drag everybody down. And then finally, people and animals. People love baby animals. They love children. They love to see things. If you're not comfortable putting your kids online, totally fine. Find other ways to share your family, to share your story, to share your animals, to share your products. Um, find ways to do that where you're sharing your story, you're sharing what's going on, and people are interacting. All of that being said, as you go on to sharing products, make sure that you're watching what those engagement rates are so you know, okay, my followers on social media love to see the baby lambs. They love to see the lambs. They don't really like to see the trees and the hazelnuts or the pecans. Okay, people don't like trees. They like lambs. Can we show the lambs in the trees? Do we do silvopasture and graze them in there? Find ways of combining things and combining products as well with your photos. So putting it all together, and I did not realize what time it was. So the first thing you're gonna do is here's a sample brand kit. So putting everything that we just talked together. So your logo, your tagline, your style, your story. This is one that ChatGPT very nicely created for me. And it works, honestly. So Willow and Way is a pretend artisan creamery in Kentucky. It is a cow farm, a cow dairy. Here is like their color palette is soft cream and sage green and aged gold, which I don't even know what color that would be, and warm brown. Natural light wooden cutting boards, rustic textures, very very in with the times of what people are putting in their homes right now. And then the tagline is tradition in every pour, care in every cut. So obviously they have milk and cheese. So that's kind of an example. It's really easy to break that down. If you are having issues and you are kind of at a brain fart or you've hit a writer's block, go to ChatGPT. Or go to any AI or go to a friend and say, what would you tell me my story is? And see what they say. Not to ChatGPT, but to your friend. ChatGPT, you can give them information, they'll dish it out. So all of that goes then into your marketing strategy. So your marketing strategy consists of 6 parts. Your first part is your goals. So these are specific and measurable goals for your business. They're focused around your marketing. The next part is your SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is really used to see where you are in the marketplace and how you are perceived. If you do not feel comfortable doing this yourself, you can ask a technical assistance provider. You can ask ChatGPT to do it for you. You can ask a friend or family and ask them a series of questions of like, what do you think the strengths of our business? What are some opportunities that we're not catching? What are some threats and what are some weaknesses? Ask your customers. They love to feel like they're part of your business, both wholesale and retail customers. They love to feel that way, and they're willing to share their opinion. But remember that is what it is. It is their opinion. At the end of the day, you make the choices for your business, but their opinions do matter. Pricing and distribution strategy, it's fairly straightforward. Your marketing strategy. This is the overall plan of how you are going to promote and sell. So traditional marketing, digital marketing, event strategies, all of that. How to reach customers and how to keep the ones you got. Sales and promotion strategy. Again, kind of a continuation on with that marketing strategy. And then finally, your budget. Everything from a budget of 0 to a budget of 10,000. Making sure that you have something in there and a plan for that money, or it is really easy to say, well, I'm just going to do $20 now and $20 later and $20 here and $50 there. And oh, I need t-shirts. Oh, I need rack cards. Oh, I'm going to get this really nice board for my retail store, for my farmer's market. And by the end of the year, you spent $6,500, $9,000 on marketing. And you're like, where did it go? Why am I not seeing my return? That budget helps kind of measure that return. So how do we do this so we are not driving ourselves insane? Here are some tools that I recommend. Canva is a free or paid service to help with digital creations of assets. What that means is it can help create flyers, social media posts, menus. It can help create email platforms for email newsletters, all of that. It is essentially a designer, a graphic designer for people who don't do graphic design. CapCut is a video editing software. It is through the same people who own TikTok, so ByteDance. It is free, or there's a paid version of $10 a month. Really simple to use. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from your computer. You can put together long videos, short videos, anything in between. I put together hour-and-a-half long videos with it before. Really easy to use. I have no video editing background. That is not self-taught. And that is one of my favorite apps to use when it comes to that. As I mentioned, ChatGPT, really helpful, free to use. Just Google ChatGPT and it'll pop right up. One thing to remember is that everything you put into it, it holds onto it in its own servers. So if someone in California wanted to know about organic marketing of organic produce in the Midwest, it could pull some of your information. It wouldn't say that it came from this farm in this state and this is the farm name, but it would still say, okay, this is what we've seen. This is what the internet shows. It's just like putting anything on the internet. Metricool and Hootsuite are social media platform management tools. Same with Meta Business Suite. Metricool and Hootsuite can manage everything from Meta ran one, so Facebook and Instagram, but also TikTok and Twitter or X and Pinterest and others. MailChimp is a email subscription service. Really easy to use, just like Facebook, drag and drop, very straightforward. Grammarly, I'm sure we've all heard of Grammarly. That's if you're not good at grammar and spell check and you just write as you talk, then this is a great service, great option for you because it helps kind of narrow it down and adjust it and spell check and check your grammar. And then finally, Google Small Business, which was Google My Business. Now it's Google Business. And that way, if someone looks you up, they can find you immediately. And that is perfect time. So the next part is the part I think you all have been waiting for, is to not hear from me, is to hear from people who are doing this every day. So we've got three awesome ladies here with us. Jann Knappage with Fox and Hen Farm. They are located out in Menifee County, Kentucky, which is Eastern Kentucky. You have Debbie Apple with River Cottage Farm and Catering. She is in South Central Kentucky, close to me. She is in Scottsville, I think, right now, Debbie. And then Carilynn Coombs and her family with Jericho Farmhouse up in outside of Louisville. So they're gonna kind of share their stories here. I'm gonna let them each introduce themselves and kind of talk a little bit about who they are and what they do before we get into our questions. I don't know who wants to go first out of the three of you. Would be whoever wants to start is great for me.
Well, I can start it off. I am a farmer in Adolphus, Kentucky, just outside of Scottsville. We do beef, lamb, chicken, pork, wool. We have a dairy, lamb, and honey. And we've been farming for a long time. I started my website in the very early 2000s, and that has been my main marketing. I send out a monthly newsletter and my website. I've never had a Facebook page, never done Instagram or anything like that. So I'm a little bit different. but my newsletters are super important. I've done them since 2004, I think. And um, we are very strict if somebody doesn't open a newsletter in five, if they don't open five newsletters in a row, they get taken off. And I have about a 62% open rate by just spending that time honing who our customer actually is. And I think um, one of the things that I was thinking about when Katie was talking about how important our story is, I think for me, um, just as important as my story is my customer's story. And I always try to think that where those two stories intersect is where I begin my marketing. And so we always try to think about that in all of our newsletters. And um, yeah, and then that's kind of how we market. We do two farmers markets and a delivery in Nashville. And that's who we are.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie, for sharing that. Jann or Carilynn, do either one of you all want to go next?
I can go next.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, hold on. Did you lose me? Sorry. My name is Carilynn Coombs. I am a fourth generation dairyman, raising the fifth generation. And we have a very unique story because we didn't start this business out of like expansion or out of moving into a new market. We started this business out of necessity. In 2018, we sold all of our all of our milk to Dean's Foods out of Louisville, and they went bankrupt, and no one would take our milk. So we had about 90 days to get rid of 250 animals. So, in thinking along those lines, it was more of you've got 90 days to figure out how to make this work so that we can make farm payments. I have a background in ag marketing, so I kind of took the lead on that with various things. Like I was really all about making sure that people knew who we were, even though we were a very private family. So that was a lot of like ask for forgiveness later, because anytime the news came to me, I agreed. I said, let's do it. But what that got us a 10-minute mini documentary on NBC News, which helped kind of push the brand. Currently, we operate an ice cream trailer. We operate an ice cream parlor and farm marketplace. And we are in the initial stages of building a processing plant so that we can milk cows and sell our milk. So that is kind of a backstory. I grew up on a dairy and tobacco farm in far western Kentucky. I happened to marry a dairy and tobacco farmer from Henry County, and we have 3 children.
Awesome. Last but not least, Jann, you still with us?
I'm here. Hi, everybody. As Katie said, I am in Menifee County, Kentucky, which is one of the 5 counties that make up the Red River Gorge. And I feel like that's important to our branding. So I wanted to say that. We part-time farm. Oh, I like to say we full-time farm on a part-time schedule. Both Kevin and I have day jobs, full-time day jobs. So we're fitting things in before work or after work on the weekends whenever we can. So we have a much smaller operation, I believe, than these other 2 farms. We sell at one farmer's market, and we also sometimes sell at like specialty markets. Usually it's like a friend is running it and I am joining. Sorry, my house was totally quiet till I unmuted. Um, we have some animals. We have laying hens, we have sheep, and we have pigs. The animals are more new to us, so we're still figuring that out. But we also have two high tunnels where we grow to make value-added products, which is currently where our farm income is coming from. I created a line of jams and jellies. I call it Jann's Jams. Um, and that is what I take to market on top of other things like trail snacks. So I make what I call tomato jerky or like squash chips, anything someone could come by at the market and then take like when they go hiking or climbing, since we're in that tourist destination. Um, and then currently I'm working on outfitting a commercial kitchen in a building that we have. So looking for equipment and things. So I would be able to sell more wholesale when those opportunities come up. And it's just the two of us. We're first generation farmers. We're also both not from Kentucky. We're both Midwesterners who have moved here. And then we have a 2.5-year-old. And I will say that part of our story also, I feel, is just like not having that support. And as Katie mentioned, like you didn't want to harp on like what's so hard, but that was something that really hit us in the face of being idealists and then being like, oh man, this is really hard trying to do all of this by ourselves. But we have awesome neighbors and things. So we've built some great community. And then I will say my main way of marketing is on social media. So I've decided in my limited time to focus on Instagram. That's probably the millennial in me. But then I share to Facebook so I can hit that group as well. So that's how we mostly do things. And then we do have a website, but it's just the basics about who we are and what we do. I haven't really had an active newsletter or blog since we had Aster, but it would be something I find valuable and would like to pick back up if I could.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I'm going to skip over the slide and I'm going to leave the pictures up, the pretty pictures up of all your old stuff.
Honey, Greg.
And I'm going to go on and ask some questions and we can go in any order. Whoever wants to start talking first is great. So my first question is, how did you first develop your farm's brand? And what challenges did you face in keeping it consistent over time? Anyone? We can go in order of who introduced first, if that works for you all. Or
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. When I started my farm, I didn't have any land. And so I was borrowing land from everywhere. And so in the time that we've been farming, our farm has changed a lot. And from the very beginning, just thinking about like how to do a website and how to write in my newsletters without having land was really tricky. So I think I've just always focused on how we raise our animals, no matter where we are. And I know my customers very well. I know, my big thing with my customers is what keeps them up at night. And I answer that question with my marketing because I know I don't sell meat and milk, I sell a feeling. And so I've really tried to focus on that in my newsletters and on my website, just really focusing on I get you, I know what you're looking for, I've been there, and you can trust us. So that theme of trust has always been there, no matter whether we had land or not.
awesome.
So with us, I feel like we had a little bit of an advantage because we had such a story of like just like the traditional dairy farm was completely leaving Kentucky, and how are we going to um how are we going to face that? So in comparison to what the other two farms had, we had 500 acres that was completely dedicated to our dairy farm. And then all of a sudden we had 500 acres, but we didn't know what to do with it. So when we started talking about what we wanted to do, we just copied and pasted. For any of y'all who know um, Carl and Deborah Cheney from Cheney's Dairy Barn in Bowling Green, we had a lot of conversations with them. But then coming up with a branding, it's not just me and it's not just my husband, it's also my father-in-law and my mother-in-law. So the initial way that we talked about branding was I had to get their approval. I think we went through over like 150 names, um, but ultimately settled with something um, that reflected our location. So we live in Jericho, and um, then we did Farmhouse just because that was the one that my mother-in-law liked. As far as the way that we developed the brand, again, we had a little bit more of a leg up just because of our situation, but I had a lot of help from Chip and Joanna Gaines from Magnolia. So I was able to work with their marketing team to have discussions based off of what feelings I wanted to, when people thought of me and my family, what feelings did I want them to come up, think of. And so we came out with this very clear and polished logo and brand. Um, However, while it has continued to be consistent, we've actually tried to like change it up a little bit because it is so polished. What I've recognized is that there are times that I would really like to be bold with it. There are times that I'd really like to be fun with it. And currently it doesn't lend itself to that. So trying to figure out the best way to keep the heart of the brand, but also, um, have a little bit of fun and so that kids know that they can get ice cream, make sure that everybody knows that it's an ice cream place, but also we are a farm market that sells other local people's goods. And so it's kind of like walking this thin line of being a really fun ice cream shop, but also having that kind of rooted, farm feel to it.
I feel like what I initially want to say is I'm just winging it. But I know that deep down there is more thought into it. Um, I think that it's developed over time for us. I will say that Kevin is my partner, not into social media, could probably care less if we had a website, just doing his thing. So it's really on me. And so I try to always make sure, one, that folks know it's my voice. And I'll do like little stints of where I'll like a look from Kevin's eyes, but mostly it's me. And I try to let folks know that the messages are coming from me. Um, but when we used to market garden in the very beginning, when we were idealists and thought that we could make that happen while working, our message was a bit different than now, growing to make value added. And so there was a transition time with that. So something I like to do is, and I know we're going to talk about this, but I like to story tell and just share like my experience of either how we got to where we are or where we're at right now. And so a big thing Debbie had mentioned that they didn't have their own land at first. So we didn't either. And we moved our farm multiple times before we landed on the farm that we are now that we own. And that was a big part of our story in the beginning. So I would talk about like land access and I would talk about our journey and even sometimes the like, you know, financing and just the struggles of that and the journey that it took us. And then, once that we were able to move forward in that and have our own space, Um, then I kind of shifted stories and it was a different phase of the farm. And so now a lot of what I share is like including Aster as our daughter who's in the bottom right corner. She like how she is a part of the farm and how I'm gonna have to do things slower now because I'm including her, but how important it is for me to include her in what we're doing. So I kind of use that and weave through and then like share what we're doing as like farm updates while I'm doing that storytelling. And for those of you who are on social media and like use Instagram or Facebook, I share a lot of on the stories, which are like the ones that disappear in 24 hours. Because I find that that's where I'm at right now, and I do find I get quite good engagement as opposed to posts or videos. And I think it's just because I don't feel like I can be quite as thoughtful right now to do like a full on post or like make a reel, like a process reel or something. So this is how I'm trying to stay active and let folks know we still exist while I just don't feel like I have as much time. Um, so yeah, I would just say that it developed over time and I think it still is. And there's so many plans that I have that I just need to give time to. Because it's like I know better, but I just like haven't been thoughtful enough to enact things that I've learned over the years about branding and marketing. And I will say for our logo, uh, we we started our farm in 2018, and we've had the same logo since. And a friend created it for me. And I thought about rebranding a few times, but I don't know what direction I'd want to go. So it's just simple black and white, and that was because Kevin and I could agree on that. Um, and we thought that it could be versatile depending on what we're using it for. But yeah, I think that's all I have on that.
Awesome. You all are doing great and jumping ahead of my questions, and you each have touched on the next one a little bit in your last kind of answer. So, can you share and elaborate a little bit more on how telling your farm story, whether it's online or in person, through social media, through your email newsletter, has helped build those customer relationships and continue to bring back those repeat customers and encourage new customers to come and see you?
I think when I think about building our customer base and telling our story, I think about like the outcome that we want. And with us, we had a situation about a year and a half ago where our dairy barn burned down. And, you know, we we sent out a newsletter and just letting everybody know, our dairy was supposed to have started up and our customers gave us $70,000 in about a month. And to me, like when I think about marketing, like I always there's two different kinds of marketing, I think. One is taking somebody's fears and manipulating them, or taking somebody's fears and doing everything you can to alleviate them and meet those needs. And I think you know, those you don't give $70,000 to somebody that you don't feel like you know. Um, they know me, they know our story, and I've done it for so long. It was like blogger. I mean, obviously, like this was way before any kind of social media, and I would just really tell what I was doing that day and try to make people feel like they really knew the farm. So one of my most popular posts ever was one on I saw a cow who was about to give, I thought she was about to give birth. She'd actually already given birth. And I just took a picture of her and put her on my blog. And I said, this is the look of a guilty cow. Like, this is what a guilty cow looks like. She's got a secret. And this is how I have to figure out what that secret is and where that baby is. And the end of that post was like how beautiful it was where she had given birth. And I asked the question, I said, I'm not sure this makes a difference, but like, what if being born in a beautiful pasture affects the milk from this cow in 2 years. And, I think bringing them in and making them think about the things that I think about has been what's really helped me to just bring them along with me for so long.
So I think, our story obviously is impactful, but I think a lot of people, there's a few things. So we constantly remind people kind of why we're doing what we're doing and where we've come from, which gives this sense of they want to root for us. Like they're looking for someone to root for. And so you take them day by day and they can slowly see your progress or your setbacks. And I don't want to diminish it at all because of, I mean, like what we do is really good work, but we're, we also hold an entertainment value. I mean, they want to root for us. They want to watch us. They want to see. I mean, I have so many regulars who constantly know whether this is good or bad, like know my children and watch them grow up, via Instagram or Facebook or just coming out. Because I mean, my kids work the shop just as much as I do. Now, they're not doing any of the stuff that I do because they're 10, 8, and 6, but they are consistently up there, sweeping off rocks and things like that. So those people automatically feel like they have become a part of our family. And I mean, I have regulars from 2019 all the way up, that still come every weekend during the summer. And this is a story that I haven't shared, but it is one of those things that I probably will. We have one couple who wanted to be so much a part of our story that his wife got Alzheimer's, and the only thing she wanted every Saturday was a scoop of strawberry ice cream. And so he would bring her to the shop every single Saturday. And she didn't know what she was asking for at that moment because she had kind of lost that. And it's hard because in our line of work, we're still open during the wintertime, but not a lot of people come in the wintertime. And like they haven't started coming back. And so it's one of those things that it's like, did something happen to her? Like, I don't know. Like as a business owner, I don't know, but I become just as invested in their lives as they do mine. And I think that that's what makes us different is that I'm constantly asking about their families. I'm constantly asking about their kids, especially as they grow up. And we're just very, very family oriented. And so I think we've been able to utilize our story to make connections. And that's my biggest thing is that when you're talking about marketing, it is all about connections. And I want them to see me do well, and I want to see them do well.
Quite honestly, I don't know if I have anything new to add, but I'll just reiterate that I think that the storytelling does give your customers or future customers something to root for, like Carilynn said. Like they want to be a part of what you're doing. And a lot of folks, I think sometimes because I'm so in the farm community, I think everyone's doing this. And they're not. And so they like to see what it's like. Sorry, everybody. They want to see what life is like on a farm, no matter, how big, how small, just the curiosity of it. Where for us, it's like a normal every day. You wake up and there's like, I have so many wild stories about just like almost predators or like, just things happen because it's farm life and there's so many living things and moving pieces that to you, you're kind of like, well, that was a day, but it's still kind of normal. But when you go to share it, people are like, oh no, my day was not like that. And maybe didn't have so much excitement. And I always tell Kevin, I'm like, when we go to friends' houses for dinner, I could probably just share the most wildest stories the whole dinner and people would be like, oh, all right. like sometimes I don't think folks know what to say. So I think that just it's a connection. And I've had a lot of folks tell me they'll come to a market and they'll like act like they know me. And I'm like, I got nothing. I don't know who this person is. And then they'll follow up with, oh, well, like I follow you on social media, whatever it is. And then they'll tell me like whatever it was that like drew them in. And I've made a lot of like I've had a lot of larger orders come in because of that. And I also feel like when I do any special markets that are outside of my area and there are folks like I work for UK. So if I'm ever in Lexington doing a market, I feel like I have work friends that will like come just to support me because they know it's the thing I do on the side and it's a totally different part of me that they don't see, but they follow along the farm, so they're still engaged. So I just feel like I've made a lot of like in-person sales that way, or had people special order things, or just had like fun, cool connections because somebody like was drawn in by something that we've shared or some piece of the farm. So if I could say anything, it is hard to open yourself up, and there's definitely for me like a balance of what I share versus what I don't, and it's been a learning curve to learn that because sometimes you do get unwanted comments, just like anytime, even when you're in person or online. But there is a balance, I feel, that you can still be true to yourself without having to open up your whole heart to everybody all the time, if that's not your thing. So yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Last question, and then I'm going to kind of open it up to participants if you all want to ask questions. So how do you each approach photography on your farm? And videography. How do you do photos and videos on your farm? Do you take your own photos? What kind of images have had and what kind of images have had the most impact with your customers?
I take most of my own pictures, and my pictures, my website is extremely photocentric. I have tons of pictures on there, and same with my newsletters. Um, and then I also use Unsplash a little bit if there's something that I need that I don't have, but I'm always taking pictures because I really don't share hardly any. I'm really like not much about myself at all. It's all about the farm. I think I have one picture of me on the entire website. And but um but yeah, the pictures definitely are for me just super important.
Sorry, guys. I'm just over here choking on Skittles. It's totally fine. That's a normal thing. I'm like over here just like hacking along, and I'm like, oh, well, it's fine. Um, so we have a unique approach. Again, it also helps that I have a really big network. So I went to UK, and one of my best friends is a professional photographer. So what we try to do is we balance. We do every year she comes out, she does family images and any really like pertinent things that I need really solid images of. So any new flavor combos, any steaks, any new thing that we're going to debut, that is a 1 day shoot. And she comes out and does all of that. As for the day to day, that's strictly me. I'm for the most part, I just utilize my iPhone, throw it in portrait or cinematic mode, and do it that way. Our website is also pretty photocentric. You talking about it isn't necessarily doesn't speak as much as images. So the other thing that we have noticed is that while professional photos are phenomenal, you tend to get more engagement with the authentic, and they can tell if a photo is authentic. Like they can tell if it wasn't professionally done. So I tried to do a good mix of some of my professional photos, which I have a huge library just because, like the day that we went out of milking, she came and captured our very last milking. So like we have a library of stuff, but day to day, I do the authentic stuff, and then we have all of her professional stuff for me to utilize when I need it.
I take all our photos on my phone, and it's something, a goal for me is to it seems like, I'm sorry everyone, we're having a hard time at our house right now. Okay, we're getting close to bedtime. Um, I I see the value in learning to take more like photos on a digital camera, but I haven't ventured down that road. Um, but yeah, it's just me, and I just take a lot, and then I'll go back through them and kind of see like what's good, what's not, but I try to document as we go. Um, and I will say we've had some professional photos in the past, but I haven't really like circled back, because I would say I agree that usually the ones that are just like videos or photos just taken for every day seem to do seem to draw more interest. I will say that I was sad when social media went more to videos, because and especially curated videos, because that takes time and thought, and it doesn't feel as organic to me. And so I will say that's been a little challenging. But I keep like chugging along doing what I've been doing, and some things hit and some things don't make any splash, and then you know, I kind of learned what still can pass through the algorithm.
So I'm going to challenge each of you who's on here tonight and who's watching in the future for some next steps. So first is to create a simple style guide. Just your logo, some colors, your tagline, kind of what your voice is, and just roll with it and go with it and see how that then helps shape your marketing going forward. Identify some of your key messages, like Carilynn mentioned. Her target customer, she had to create a voice, but her target customers are moms and millennials and slowly working into Gen Z. So what are the messages that they're looking for that resonate with your business? Write your story out, make it three. It's easier to write longer and cut it down for what you need than it is to write short and expand. And then to take 10 on-farm photos or videos in the next week or so. I am not going to grade you on this. I am not going to ask for them. I am just curious if it will help. And I want you all to try it, because we get into a lot of webinars and conferences and workshops, and we glean all of this information, and then it lives in a notepad and it doesn't leave. So I want you all to take this information and really try and practice it and use it in what you're doing. I also encourage you all to follow these ladies and their farms on social media, to subscribe to Debbie's newsletter and to read it and kind of see what their voices, glean some more information from them as they are doing what they do and what they do best. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Rural Action as well. We will be on again next week, speaking on another different topic. I think Molly with Rural Action will be presenting. And then the fourth and final week will be June 3rd, Tuesday, June 3rd, and that will be on inventory and point of sale systems. I'm going to stop sharing, and I will turn it back over to Katie Lloyd with Rural Action for any additional announcements.
All right, you summarized it pretty well, Katie. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Debbie, Jann, and Carilynn. I appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a good rest of your night, especially our friends in Kentucky. Hopefully the storms pass you by and they're not too serious, but we're thinking of you guys. So everybody have a good night, and thank you for joining. Bye now.